In Nietzsche's later writings, Dionysos returns with full force as a philosopher, Nietzsche himself becoming the last disciple of the philosopher Dionysos. What Nietzsche wished in part in The Will to Power to do was to rethink the Dionysian and the Apollonian in The Birth of Tragedy in terms of his new mature philosophy and its key doctrines. We often think of Nietzsche as so atheistic, but in fact his writing is full of pious silence and shuddering, such as when he tries to work himself up to an explanation of eternal recurrence or even names Dionysus. For what do we modern-day men know of the range of Greek happiness, and what could we know? Whence would we slaves of modern ideas derive a right to Dionysian festivals? All the themes and core teachings of Nietzsche's later philosophy, which we have covered, seem to come together in a very important aphorism, first written down in 1885 and particularly underlined by David Farrell Krell. It reads, "And do you know what the world is to me? Shall I show it to you in my mirror? This world, a monster of energy, without beginning, without end, a firm iron magnitude of force that does not grow bigger or smaller, that does not expend itself, but only transforms itself, as a whole of unalterable size, a household without expenses or losses, but likewise without increase or income, enclosed by nothingness as by a boundary, not something blurry or wasted, not something endlessly extended, but set in a definite space as a definite force, and not a space that might be empty here or there, but rather as force throughout, as a play of forces and waves of forces, at the same time one and many, increasing here and at the same time decreasing there, a sea of forces flowing and rushing together, eternally changing, eternally flooding back, and tremendous years of recurrence, with an ebb and a flood of its forms, out of the simplest forms striving towards the most complex, out of the stillest, most rigid, coldest forms towards the hottest, most turbulent, most self-contradictory, and then again returning home to the simple out of this abundance, out of the play of contradictions back to the joy of concord, still affirming itself in this uniformity of its courses and its years, blessing itself as that which must return eternally, as a becoming that knows no satiety, no disgust, no weariness. This, my Dionysian world of the eternally self-creating, the eternally self-destroying, this mystery world of the twofold voluptuous delight, my beyond good and evil, without goal unless the joy of the circle is itself a goal, without will unless a ring feels goodwill towards itself. Do you want a name for this world? A solution for all its riddles? A light for you too, you best concealed, strongest, most intrepid, most midnightly humans? This world is will to power and nothing besides, and you yourselves are also the will to power and nothing besides." Now, this is clearly a very poetic aphorism, but if we were to break down its world picture philosophically, we would find it's basically an Aristotelian cosmology. A very good term paper could be written on this, although we don't have time to get into it here. For our purposes, this is one of the clearest aphorisms in which the will to power is explicitly identified as the eternal recurrence, the being of the world and its becoming, the being and becoming of the world being defined as the Dionysian ring dance of the return, where the will to power is the essence of the world and Dionysian recurrence is the best definition we can find for existence. The whole format and framing of the aphorism as an epagoge, turning of the soul towards a sight, in this case the essence and the existence of the world, recalls the ancient mystery festivals in which the mirror very often appears as a sacred object of the initiation. So it almost makes us chuckle a bit at this point to recall Sartre's dictum that existence precedes essence. In Nietzsche and Heidegger, the task will rather be to think the simultaneity of essence and existence. And in Nietzsche, this simultaneity is thought in the ontological synthesis of the world as will to power and eternal recurrence. Will to power being the essence of the world and eternal recurrence its existence. ER is thus the great cultivating idea, and the means of enduring it, means of disposing of it, and means of placing it at the midpoint as a selective principle are very important for human becoming.